Hey everyone, and welcome back to Battleborn. I've got an update for Benedict's Missile Barrage build for you, and on this video we're going to talk about his abilities, his Helix choices, and the gear I like to bring for the build. So let's start off with his passive, Flyboy. Jumping again in the air allows Benedict to double jump. Holding secondary attack while in the air causes Benedict to glide for a limited time. So you can double jump from the ground, or you can do it while you're gliding, and that's going to increase your altitude and allow you to glide for a longer period of time. And as Benedict, you should be gliding as much as possible because it makes it easier for you to land your rocket launcher shots, and it also diverts the enemy's attention. So they're going to have to pay attention to the ground and the sky whenever you're around, and that leaves them more vulnerable. And at level 5, we're going to augment it so the flight speed is 25% faster. That just lets you escape easier or close the gap on people quicker. All right, next up we've got his main attack, his weapon, UPR SM-23 rocket launcher. It's got 5 rockets in every clip. Benedict's trademark rocket launcher deals heavy damage in a wide explosive radius. So the closer your target is to the impact zone, the more damage it's going to take. And this rocket launcher has had 2 major changes since the original build. So the first one is you can't do critical hits anymore. You can hit the crit spot dead on. It's not going to do any extra damage. And they've made it so you can't do the reload animation cancel trick anymore. So before, you used to be able to reload between each shot, and it wouldn't slow down your firing rate at all if you did it right. But they got rid of that. So now you've got to be much more cognizant of how many rockets you've got in your clip, because you don't want to run into situations where you could have finished someone off, but you didn't have enough shots in the clip and they end up getting away. So it just adds a whole new dynamic to Benedict. You've just got to be constantly aware of how many rockets you've got, and you've got to use your abilities at the right times. For instance, you don't want to use your Hawkeye when you've got like 2 shots left, because that's going to waste it. All right, next up, we've got Hawkeye, which we were just talking about. It's got a 20-second cooldown, fires a rocket that deals 133 damage and targets enemies for 3 seconds. Subsequent rockets home in on targeted enemies. So this is your burst ability. This is how you're going to kill people. And you hit them with the Hawkeye, they get marked, and then your next, usually about 3 or 4 rockets, home in on that target. And normally you want to shoot into the sky so you don't have the rockets hit any walls or anything like that. Shooting into the sky tends to make them hit their target more often because there's just less obstacles for them to run into. And we're going to augment this ability multiple times to give us better burst. At level 1, we're going to increase the homing duration by 1 second to get it up to 4 seconds. At level 4, we're going to have Hawkeye shoot 3 rockets instead of 1. At level 6, we're going to increase the damage that the subsequent homing rockets do by 20%. And then at level 9, we're going to increase the Hawkeye rockets damage, so the initial skill use rockets, by 15%. So it's going to be a huge burst ability, and it's just going to get better and better as we level up. All right, next up we've got Liftoff. It's got a 15-second cooldown. Launches Benedict skyward for a strategic advantage or a hasty withdrawal from combat. So it's mostly got 2 uses. You're either using it to escape from people that got into melee with you, or you're just using it to gain altitude. So you're going to be using it a lot because, like I said, you want to be in the air as much as possible, and that's the easiest way to get into the air. All right, next up we've got Boomsday, his ultimate. It's got an 85-second cooldown, which is massive. Launches a player-guided missile that deals 500 damage. Reactivating the skill in flight triggers early detonation. So you shoot off this ultimate usually when you're trying to finish someone off. Or you can use it for minion waves or something. But usually I use it to finish someone off. They've gotten low health and they're running away into the backfield. They think they're safe, and then you guide Boomsday right onto their face and they're dead. But you need to be aware that while you're guiding Boomsday and while it's exploding, your character is completely vulnerable. So you're just standing there open to any and all attacks. So make sure you're only using it whenever you're sure that you're in a safe position and it's going to remain safe for like 3 to 5 seconds at least. Otherwise, you're just going to give a free kill to the enemy. Alright, so those are his abilities. Let's talk about his Helix choices. We'll talk about all of them, and I'll tell you which ones I like. So, level 1, we go to the right with Persistent Projectiles. That increases the homing duration from your Hawkeye by 1 second, getting it up to 4 seconds. Pretty self-explanatory why that is a good option and why I like to take it. I used to go with Evasive Pattern Benedict, but since the changes, I like the increased homing duration. But it's a great ability to get you out, because I like to use Benedict to get in close quarters, burst people down really hard, and then get out of there. So Evasive Pattern Benedict is still really good for using once that burst is done. It's just going to launch you right out of danger. So it's still an option, but not my favorite anymore. And then you've got Rejiggered Ordnance in the middle. The only reason you would take this is if you want a faster burst. Because it's gonna, usually you begin the burst with a Hawkeye, so your target will usually have their shields up, unless of course they're Eldred. So it's gonna do more damage to their shields on those Hawkeye rockets. But overall, Persistent Projectiles is gonna do more damage. But Rejiggered Ordnance is gonna make your burst faster, and that could be really good if you're trying to kill someone quickly, like maybe they have an Alani doing major burst heals all over the place. That could get someone dead where she can't save them. So it's very situational. I don't think I would ever take it, but it does have its uses. All right, level 2, I go to the left with Make Some Room. On activation, Liftoff pushes nearby enemies away. So it's definitely useful for getting melee off of you, even though it shoots you into the sky anyway. But it's good to create that distance, and it's easier to land rockets on people that aren't directly beneath you. I like having them at a slight angle. Like, obviously a downward angle is better, but straight down I struggle with. So I like pushing them away and getting that better angle to hit them with. The option on the right, I don't find useful at all. It slows for 1 second on liftoff. 1 second slow, just, it's too short. It doesn't really help you at all. It's hardly noticeable, so I don't ever take that. Level 3, I go to the left with Ready Rockets, increases my reload speed by 30%, because that reload speed is brutal at its normal rate. So I like increasing that and increasing my sustained damage. You could go with Speedy Delivery on the right if you have trouble landing your rockets. That's going to increase their speed, which makes it easier to hit. Really personal preference, I suppose, but I find the reload speed to be superior because I'm not having trouble landing the rockets in the first place. Level 4, we go to the right with a Murder of Rockets. That makes it so Hawkeye shoots 3 rockets instead of 1, just makes your burst that much better. It makes it that much easier to land Hawkeye. So most likely, if you shoot it off, you're going to hit your target. They're going to get marked, and they're going to eat homing missiles that come in behind it. If you wanted to have more sustained damage, like maybe you're more focused on killing minion waves, or you just like having sustained damage, you could go with Rapid Reload. Every time you use Hawkeye, it would instantly reload your rocket launcher, so the use for that would be to shoot all your rockets, hit a Hawkeye, and then you've got 5 rockets ready to go. So I don't like that choice, but it's a valid choice, especially now that they fixed the reload cancel trick. Before, it was completely useless, but now it's very useful, but not my preference. Level 5, we go to the right with Tailwind. That increases flight speed by 25%. I mostly take that to close the distance with people. I like it for escaping, but it's mostly for gap closing. I really like it for that. You could go to the left for Gladiator. That allows you to stay in the air for longer and blast people from the sky. I typically don't play that way. Like, I spend a lot of time in the sky, but whenever I'm going to kill someone, I go in and burst them. So I don't like that choice. I don't need to be in the sky for that long. And there's also Dive Bomb. This is a really weird one that some people really like. I hate it. I can't use it at all, but I've seen it used to decent effect. While gliding, if you press your quick melee button, it dive bombs I think it's the quick melee button. I always forget. It might be the left trigger. No, left trigger is glide, so it's the quick melee. It dive bombs your enemies, and it deals damage to them and pushes them back. And I guess it's a decent amount of damage, but I just don't like it. I just haven't really found much of a use for it. But if you do like it, it is fun to use. I just don't find it all that useful. But you should try it out, see if it's to your liking or not. All right, next we've got level 6. We go to the right with Heavy Bombardment. That causes our homing rockets to deal 20% extra damage, further increasing our burst. You could go with Blast Off to the left to deal damage on liftoff, but I don't find that to be very useful. I mean, it's great extra damage for pushing melees back when you lift off, but I'd much rather have the homing rocket increase. That's vastly superior. All right, next up we've got Surgical Strike on the right that I like to choose. Increase your damage by 18%, your rocket damage that is, at the cost of decreased area of effect radius. So if you're a good aim, which I think I am, go with that. It's extra damage at really no cost if you're a good aim. If you're not a good aim, I recommend going to the left with Danger Zone, which increases the rocket launcher's blast radius by 45%, allowing you to land your rockets more consistently. Never, ever, ever take multi-loader in the middle. I could go at length at why it's terrible. It just don't do it. It decreases your firing rate. It's horrible for aiming. It's just bad all around. And if you take it, you may as well quit the game because you're that useless. All right, level 8. I like to go to the left with Frequent Flyer. That reduces liftoff's cooldown by 25%, and using liftoff more often is great, which is for obvious reasons. You just want to be in the air more often. You could go to the right with First Class if you wanted to recharge your shields on liftoff activation, but I don't find that particularly useful. And usually, if I would want my shields back, I usually get shot anyway, so that stops the shields from recharging. So it recharges like maybe 50 points of shield, then you get hit and it stops. So don't find that really useful. Level 9, we go to the right with Party Starter. That increases Hawkeye's rocket damage by 15% and just further increases your burst, which I always like. You could, honestly, any of these choices are decent. You could go to the left, reduce Hawkeye's cooldown by 25%, but I find I can get it up as much as I need it with my legendary, which we'll talk about in a bit. And you could also go with Eyes on You in the middle, increase Hawkeye's blast radius by 50%. If you're having trouble landing Hawkeye, it's very important that you do. So if you're having trouble with it, you might want to go with that option up the middle. And then finally, we've got level 10. I go up the middle with Phoenix Protocol to leave a damage over time from my ultimate. I only find it useful for minions, but every once in a while, I'll use it for those minions, and it'll help. So I like to take that. If you're having trouble landing it, or maybe you're constantly using it for minions, Hawkpocalypse might be better. I haven't tested it enough for minions to say for sure, but for killing players, I don't have an issue hitting them with it, so I don't need the increased radius. So it's really, I would test that one out yourself. If it might be better for minions, but if you're having trouble hitting players with your ultimate, that would be a good choice because it would give more leeway. If you missed, you might, well, you wouldn't miss obviously because it would still hit them, but if your blast zone wasn't too close to them, it might still hit them and finish them off. Whereas with the lower radius, you could miss and they could get away. So if you're bad aim with the ultimate, you might want to get the increased radius, or it might be better for minions pending testing that I haven't done. Don't ever go with rockets launching rockets, in my opinion. It's weird. I don't know how to describe it. You like have to press the button like multiple times and then like little rockets come out, but it's very strange and doesn't work quite right. I know I don't use it correctly, but people that do and know how to say it's terrible as well. So I have no reason to believe it's good. Go with the middle or the left. All right, those are the Helix choices, and finally, let's finish up with the gear. All right, so I go 3 sets of gear depending on the game mode. This first set is for Incursion and Meltdown. I go with the Survivor's Regrowth Serum, 14 health regen per second, and an extra 7 after surviving for 3 minutes. I go with his legendary item, which you get from completing all of his lore challenges. Gives you reload speed, attack damage, and the big one, landing rocket hits while airborne reduces all active cooldowns by 1 second. So if you spend a lot of time in the air like I do and you land your shots, you're going to make those cooldowns just fly through. And you're going to be using lots of Hawkeyes and lots of liftoffs, and it's going to be great. And finally, I go with the Symbiotic Gauntlet, 8.84% attack damage, 204 extra health, and an extra 8.84% attack damage based on my current health percentage. So if I'm at max health, I get the full benefit. So that's for Incursion and Meltdown. If I go into Face Off, we go with the cheaper set. Artificial Vitae, 14 health regen per second. The Legendary again. And then a white Duelist Glove for 9.1% attack damage. And finally, Capture is the cheapest set. Artificial Vitae again. Ammo Butler for 21% reload speed. And Duelist Glove for 9.1% attack damage. So there you go. That is the update for Benedict's Missile Barrage build. It's still very effective. It still plays in much the same way. You just got to get used to not having unlimited ammo from the reload trick. And it actually does more burst damage now than it used to. So it's actually more deadly. You just have to set things up. Like, you have to be aware of your the amount of missiles you have. So you just got to be aware of that, because they did increase Benedict's damage. So it still works, and it works great. And over the next couple days, I'll release some videos of me in matches so you can see it in action. And hopefully that'll help you to get the hang of it and learn all the details of the build. So those will be coming in the next couple of days. But that's going to do it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.